Short-term missions, or volunteerism. Why are they so important? Do they help or hinder the people they leave behind? Are they a band-aid designed for the North American traveler to give themselves a pat on the back and a new stamp on their passport? While I was in Kyrgyzstan on a short-term mission, I got to sit down and speak to both local and international workers on the subject. This is John and Julie Wright, long-term humanitarian workers in Kyrgyzstan who've been working here for over 10 years. Their work includes going into the orphanages, helping out the community, and operating a farm for young adults who've aged out of the orphanages. At the farm, these young adults are given an opportunity to learn a trade, go to university, and have a place to call home. Unfortunately, there's a 2-year gap for these kids where John and Julie can't employ them. Children are let out of the orphanages at 16, but are unemployable till they're 18 because of child labor laws. In that time, a lot of the children are lost to sex trafficking, prison, or death, because there's no other opportunity for them. I got to sit down with John and Julie and ask them what they thought about the short-term volunteers who come to help them, and whether or not they thought that these teams had a negative or positive impact on the people and the work that they do.
Well, they make it possible to do things that there's no way we could do on our own. For one, it's financially, but more than the finances, like we took a group of kids bowling at an entire orphanage. There's no way Julie and I could do that on our own. Even with the workers from the orphanage, they don't have enough workers to take the kids off the premises. And when you do that, you need extra hands. And having those teams, that makes it possible.
Our co-workers are always very blessed by people from all different places in the world coming and working alongside them and encouraging them, and it really makes a difference in their lives because they feel important and loved and encouraged so that they can continue giving to others. It builds up our co-workers so they can continue to serve.
We sat with a bunch of kids one time and we were just reminiscing, and they were telling and remembering about, oh, do you remember we did this, and remember we went to the Baran Tower, and do you remember we did a soccer camp up in the mountains. Oh, one time you took us to Issyk. That was my favorite day. And oh, remember we went fishing. And a bunch of kids, and they all were going through their best memories from when they were at the orphanage. And every one of those memories was when there were teams that were here. And if we didn't have the teams, we wouldn't have been able to do that. And creating positive memories is something that's so important. And these kids, when they're in the orphanage, they don't get outside the gates. And they don't lead the normal kind of life that our kids would lead. Like maybe the only happy memories they have is when a team is there. A group of families that we deliver call to regularly, and they're always happy to see us. And we brought them to the mountain ranch, and we had a picnic there with them, and horseback riding, eagle hunting, and a fun time with the team. And the next day we delivered coal to their homes, and we got there and the coal had been delivered and we were bringing a bit more wood, and to see the look on the people's faces when they saw that it was the team again, and it was like, oh wow, hi, and she was just so happy and so excited to bring them into her home and show them her home. And there was a genuine excitement and a joy that was there to think that the team actually came to her home and visited her. And it's a real blessing to people to know that somebody cares.
After I'd sat down with John and Julie, I met with Gurnada, who's been the director of a children's medical center in Kyrgyzstan for 7 years. Here, short-term teams of foreigners come and help with the kids and bring resources through John and Julie. I thought she would probably be an interesting perspective because after the teams leave, she remains and sees the impact on the kids.
People coming here helps because they don't just come. They bring food, equipment, clothes, even the uniforms, which is a huge help because these scrubs are really expensive here. We work very closely with the orphanages because these kids have multiple problems. The orphanages don't have a psychiatrist, and when they need one, they send them here. The orphanages can't administer pills, and here we have trained doctors who can help the children. Our kids really love the interaction and attention from the people who come because most of the kids are from orphanages or single-parent households. The children don't get enough physical contact, and they're really happy when guests come because they want to hug and be hugged. It makes them feel wanted. After your visit, the children are really joyful and happy for days. You really help the kids even if you don't bring anything for them. Just the interaction is enough. It improves their psychological state.
All of this information was amazing, but I still found myself not satisfied. I had to sit down and speak with one of the children who grew up in the orphanages John and Julie would bring volunteers to, and get his or her opinion on the subject.
My name is Nikolai, and I'm 24 years old. I study at the American University of Central Asia in Bishkek, here in Kyrgyzstan. I grew up in an orphanage, so my parents wasn't that rich, so they couldn't afford school supplies or so many stuff like that kids usually need. So I went to orphanage and I lived there for 7 years. So living in the orphanage, I really liked it because it was better rather than in my house, because it had everything like food, clothes and school supplies. And when I was living with parents, they couldn't afford even to send me to school because they didn't have documents. There's so many things that we were needed. We had many foreigners as guests who came to us, and we played with them. We did like a lot of things. We did crafts. They came to the orphanage, like all kids really liked them because they knew that now we're gonna have fun, like playing, singing, whatever. Yeah, and the foreigners, when they came, they brought us to the water park, to the Burana Tower, to the mountains. We had picnics there. We had a lot of fun with them, and I would say we were very happy to have them with us. They helped us to learn English, so that's why I'm speaking English right now, even if I'm Russian. Yes, and they helped us to do the renovation in the orphanage. They were painting the walls. We were doing that together, not only someone like the foreigners or kids. We were doing it together. Now I study at the American University. I'm a third-year student of psychology department. This probably because I know John and Julie and those teams who came. They support me. They send the money for my education. If I didn't know those people, I probably couldn't get education because it's really hard here, especially the American University, because it's really expensive. Like, yeah, it's really good and positive impact in my life that I can study at such a luxury, great university. Yeah.
Short-term humanitarian aid is, and will be sent to many countries throughout the world. Kyrgyzstan is just one of the few examples of lives being impacted by a foreign helping hand. But I think it's proven that for these short-term missions to be effective, they have to be attached to a body of people who are there for the long term. When teams go, they give kids a hug they may have never gotten, give coal to a family who wouldn't have made it through the winter without it, and a future to the kids that thought they had none. These short-term missions don't just benefit the ones in need, but they help the people who go out day after day and are there for the long term. So do I think short-term missions are a benefit? Yes, I do.
I think that on top of long-term missions are required because that builds, establishes you where you are. But when we come inside those people, we are fresh, we have energy, it gives us the ability to help them, because if it's just two people in one country, you wouldn't build a house. So you need those extra hands.
You're working alongside with others, you're laboring with them, and I find that builds a bond. And even, you know, if we go and I see a kid for just one day, like the day when the families came up to the mountain ranch, and yeah, it's just that one day when I'm painting their faces and giving them a hug and letting them have a little bit of fun. But I think I'll remember that. It's that one day, it's one hug, but that's one more fun day and one more hug that they might not have gotten if we hadn't come. So I don't see how that can be bad.
And for the people that think missions are not a valid thing to do, not a good thing to do, I don't know how anybody could say that sharing kindness, caring and love is ever a bad thing. But yeah, this adventure has been incredible and quite the eye-opener.